For this video today, we are going to try out a test session of solo role-playing using the Magic the Gathering solo role-playing rules that we have developed. Hello gamers, Matthew here from Grey Army Gaming in lovely Furgalund, Sweden. Well, the time has finally come. I printed out my solo rules, I've got my magic cards ready, I've got the board set out, and I am ready to try a session of solo role-playing using Magic the Gathering cards and rules. Now I should just mention that I have yet to play a game of this on camera, and everything that you see here is going to be entirely improvised in the moment. As such, things may go better at certain times than at other times, but we're just going to try it out and see if we can have a lot of fun with it and see if this rule set actually works out and can lead to some fun role-playing, solo role-playing games. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this session of Magic the Gathering solo role-playing. Every good quest begins with a good character, so we can also begin there. I've gone ahead and picked out Elf, Ranger, Sage for our main character, but our main character is also going to need a name. We can go ahead and say too that it's going to be a male. We'll just have a male lead character, and let's pick out some name here by picking some cards. Rebuna. I like that. Rebuna. Rebuna. Rebuna is the name of our Elf Ranger Sage. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick intermediate now, which means that our character will get a 2+ bonus. We will have 20 hit points to start out with and 2 cards of gold pieces. So let's go ahead and throw that down. 4 there, plus another 1. So 5 gold pieces to start us out. Now the starting setting for our character, where does this mission, this campaign, this session begin? Well, let's draw a land card and see here. That is a cool one. So we are beginning at the gates, the huge gates of a mighty fortress town. And of course, does this town have a name? Well, of course it does. Let's go ahead and see if we can give it a name. Grizzly, Grizzly, I don't know. Grizzly is a good name for a town. Grigiat, Grigiat. Grigiat is the name of this huge town, and we're starting at the gate of this town. So this is the outer gate. The outer gate of this town. Or we could say city. I mean, it's a pretty big city. It's a pretty big gate, so they're going to require a pretty big city. So that is where we're going to begin with our Elf Ranger Sage named Rebuna. Now, Rebuna is going to have a quest or a goal here, and to do that, we can go ahead and pick out 5 cards, lay them down, and pick out the one that we want to have for our goal. Wow, this looks cool. All right, a couple similar things there. Let me see here. I kind of like this. I don't know about that one. That's kind of a strange one. We've got 2 swords here. We've got the bats. That's not really speaking to me. This lone missionary guy. I don't really know about that. Let's say this. There is an undead sword. An undead artifact, which is wielded by an undead mage in the town next door. And what we need to do is, for some reason, Rebuna, we're going to find out more why, has been called to go to this town and either steal or destroy this blade because it has been threatening the town of Grigiat. So let's see. The mage that we're looking for has got to have a name as well. So let's give a name here. Yes, Aether. Etherpeme. That's Etherpeme. I don't really like that. Let's throw away Peme. Let's pick out a different one. Aethersha. I like that. Aethersha, the wizard, and the Undead Wizard, we should say. And his sword, which does have a name. I mean, it should have a name because that's going to be super cool. So let's call it the Murasi, the sword, Murasi. So here is the quest. We have got to go to the neighboring town, and we have to go ahead and steal this sword. So we'll put that over there as our goal. Steal it or destroy it. Somehow get it away from the hands of our undead wizard, Aethersha. Now, the town next door also should have a name, so let's go ahead and pull that out. Whoops, that was the mountains. Let's see. Epiphany, let's see. Epiglutt. I like these names. The town, the city next door is Epiglutt. Epiglutt. So we're going from the town of Grigiat to Epiglutt. Strange names, but hey, I'm not going to judge here. All right, so let's begin our quest by picking out our first narrative beat here. 5 cards. Let's throw them down here and pick out the one that we think is most interesting. All right. So here we go. Oh, wow. Amazing. Immediately, the one that sticks out to me is this card here in the middle. It looks like we have our gate there, and it looks like there is, in fact, an invading army of sorts, or an army that's coming in. So let's start our story here. We'll move this over to our timeline. And we'll say this. It is early in the morning, and our hero, Rebuna, has just gotten out of bed for the morning and is preparing to eat breakfast for the day, to carry out his work, his training, and his elf ranger training, along with some of his magical training as a sage. And immediately as he begins to prepare his eggs for breakfast, he hears a thumping sound. And he can begin to feel the vibrations in the ground as he looks over outside of the gate where he has his gatehouse. He lives right along the gate here. He can see in the distance now an approaching army. And immediately he notices the banner is the army, the banner for Grigiat. So it is the local army that has been gathered outside of the city walls and that is now coming up. And eventually the army gets closer and closer, and the Rebuna sees leading the army is the governor of the town of Grigiat. And he comes up now, and they walk and ride through the gate into the city square, where the governor now sets his men at attention and steps up onto the stage that is there in the center square and calls out now to all of the folks in the town, "My fellow folks of Grigiat, now is the time. We are preparing an army to march on the town of Epiglutt to, for once and all, carry out our campaign against the evil Aethersha. His hand has been too heavy on us. Too many of our folks have died. And now I call all of you to join the army as we prepare to take our stand." And immediately there's a roar in the town as the people, local people who are working, preparing their daily activities, merchants, things like that, begin to pack up their stuff, pick up their weapons, and join ranks with the army. Now, what the governor does not know is that this Aethersha is wielding this incredible sword, the sword Murasi, that has incredible undead powers. And what he doesn't understand is that any army that marches against this wizard, unless that sword is destroyed or taken out, will in fact fall. But he doesn't know that, the hubris of a leader. So he gathers together the people, looking over at our hero, Rebuna. "You, there, are you going to join us?" Rebuna lifts his eyes from his eggs. He knows that he is not a warrior, not a rank and file type of person. He's rather someone to hold himself back in the shadows, to find a different way into the town. He stands tall. "My governor, I shall be with you. Not in the rank and file, but I shall follow along. I shall go ahead of you if necessary, and try to make the inroads so that we may have success." "Very good. We leave tomorrow morning, early in the morning. Everybody, prepare your rations, prepare your weapons. We gather here tomorrow at 0600 hours and we march." And with that, the people begin to disperse. Rebuna goes back to his eggs, now deep in contemplation, thinking to himself, how can he possibly contribute to this movement? He knows that it is indeed time to take on Aethersha, that that this wizard has been violently attacking this town of Grigiat for many, many years, and it is now time. Rebuna decides that he's going to sneak out the night before and ride during the evening and try to get to the neighboring town on his own and investigate. So let's go ahead and see the next narrative beat here. Okay. So I should say late in the night, early in the morning. It's late in the night, early in the morning. Rebuna goes out and saddles his horse, and he prepares to ride now through this mountainous area from where he is. The gates lead out down the side of this beautiful mountain, and he can see the other mountains ahead of him in the moonlight as he rides through the evening, coming along the narrow mountain passes, heading over to the quickest path that will get him to the city town of Epiglutt. And as he's riding now, immediately he feels that there is a shaking that happens around him as he looks up and immediately sees boulders, rocks falling from above him. And as he begins to try to jump out of the way, he also notices above him what looks to be the glimmer of armor above him. Armor that he doesn't recognize as being that from Grigiat, but perhaps soldiers from Epiglutt who are out in the passageways preparing now, knowing the army is marching. The stones begin to fall down, and at this point, he has to charge out of the way. And let's go ahead and give him a challenge here now. And we're going to say that this is going to be a difficult challenge. So he needs 4 of a kind. He can discard up to 2 cards here. So we have an odd, and there is an even, so discard that one. There is another odd. That's 2. We need 4 of a kind, however. Another odd. Here we go. This is exciting. And yes, 3. So he gets 4 of a kind. He is able at the last minute to dive off of his horse and to get out of the way of the stones. As the stones crash and crumble and fall down the path, you can hear them as they make their way into the valley with this incredible crash. The horse jumps up and begins to run back to town, and he rolls as he hits the ground, pulling himself into the shadows, unharmed, thankfully, because of his skill. But he hides himself in the shadows. And you can hear eventually, after a couple minutes, a few voices up on top of the ridge.
Well, looks like we got him.
The second voice.
Yeah, his horse is running back. I think he fell down with them stones. All right, let's go over a little further down and prepare. We've got some more stones now for when the next group comes along.
Rebuna slowly takes himself around the stone in the shadow, and he now lifts himself up without a horse at this point, and he continues to walk along carefully along the ridge on his way to the town. Now, eventually, the sun begins to come up, and he sees the town in front of him. And as usual, the gates are guarded quite heavily at this point. So Rebuna has to figure out a way to get inside. And as he sneaks his way along, let's go ahead and actually, before we look at this card, let's say he's going to try to sneak closer to the gate, because there's, of course, merchants and there's people outside of the gates gathered. Can he sneak his way into this outer area outside the walls and sort of blend in with the people there? I'm going to say this is a moderate challenge. So we'll say 3 of a kind here. There's an odd. 2, nope, we'll throw that one away. Another even, no, that's a second throwaway. Another odd. We need one more here, and yes, one more. So that is a success. He's able to sneak into this camp, and he pulls his cloak over his head. His skills as a ranger are pretty good, and so he's done this before. He sneaks into this camp and pulls alongside this merchant. This merchant camp where there are multiple tents set up, people selling different kinds of wares, breads, some even selling some weapons. And there he sees in front of him a group of women. Women who look rather sickly, beggar women who have their own pots with them that they hold out when they're begging for food or for money. And as he gets closer, he bumps up against one of the women, and she turns to him and kind of looks up into his face, not quite making eye contact with him, and she says, "Would you please give some alms to a poor old woman?" And he himself reaches into his cloak and pulls out his own drinking cup, and in his most feeble voice speaks back to her. "I myself am looking for alms. I'm looking for food. Is there any way that I can join you?" And the woman looks back and says, "Yes, you may come with us, but I cannot guarantee anything." "It's fine for me," he says, and he immediately follows the women as they begin to make their way to the gate. Now he limps along, pretending that his leg is indeed hurt, and he eventually comes with the women, and the women get to the gate, and immediately the people on the gate yell down, "Who goes there?" And the women sort of look up and begin to hit their cups and hit their bowls, and,
"Oh, more of the beggar women. Those diseased rabble. Don't want to get close to them. Open the gate and let them in," he says.
And so they open the gate just a little bit. Excuse me. Open the gate just a little bit so that these women can creep under. And Rebuna also follows along in the group, creeping under this gate. Now the question is he able to pull off the deception to be able to get into the gate? And I'm going to say that this is actually going to be difficult. So he's going to need 4 of a kind to pull this off, this deception. There is an odd, another odd, another odd, and an even. We'll throw that one away. And another odd. Okay, so he is actually does a really good job at persuading the guards that he is another one of these beggar women. So he is actually going to crawl under the gate with the women, limping all the while coming in, and eventually he makes his way into the square, where immediately the city bursts into life. It is now about 7 a.m. in the morning, and the city is full of life. There are people screaming out, "Come and buy fresh bread! We've got chickens, we've got eggs, we've got weapons, we've got everything you can imagine. Come, buy your wares, buy your anything you need." Excuse me. I must be allergic to this town. There's so much life in this town, and people are shouting out everything. And it's at this point, Rebuna is able to sort of slide into the shadows of the town, off into a side alleyway, in which he is able now to gather himself and to look around to try and figure out his surroundings and see where he is. And at this point, just as he takes his cloak down and begins to look around, something incredible happens in the square. And let's take a look at what we have going on here. Oh my goodness. So we'll take this card right here. There is the sound of beating drums. So early in the morning, the sound of beating drums, and he looks up, and sure enough, there comes a line of soldiers, about 6 or 7. Actually, well, let's see how many soldiers exactly. Let's take 3 cards here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 soldiers, and they are leading a group of priests. How many priests? A group of 4 priests. So we've got 8 soldiers leading 4 priests. And the soldiers are holding a half-naked man who is writhing and screaming in pain as they drag him along in chains. And right behind the 4th priest, you see immediately something of a wizard. walking behind them. And they walk to the center of the square and up onto what is this raised platform made out of bone. The bones of previous victims or previous offenders in the town. And they make their way onto this platform with the soldiers still playing their drums, getting louder and louder, faster and faster, dragging this person screaming up, "No! Leave me alone, no!" And immediately the 4 priests spread out. The wizard walks forward, cloak down over his head. He raises his cloak up.
We have among us a traitor.
He's coughing a lot, of course, because he's undead, and he's probably a little sick too.
We have among us a traitor who must now face the penalty for his treachery.
And as this wizard figure lifts his head up, Rebuna can immediately see that his eyes are glowing this incredible green glow, shooting almost sparks out of almost hatred, anger. And the sparks are coming out of what looks to be something like a skull. For sure, without question, an undead wizard. And immediately Rebuna gets the sense that this is Aethersha. This is the fabled, horrific leader of this town of Epiglutt that everyone in his town has talked about for years, but nobody has really seen, nobody has really had contact with. Well, he walks over as the soldiers pull down this man. "Help! No! I'm innocent! He screams out over and over again. Aethersha walks over. "Silence!" as he grabs him by the neck. And he looks up to the crowd, who's now stopped, entirely still, fear in their eyes, listening intently.
We have a traitor among us who has dared to give information to the town of Grigiat, our hated foes, about our plans, our ideas, and also this.
And he pulls out of the side from his cloak a blazing sword, the Sword of Murasi, that is blazing in this sort of white, reddish color, jumping off what looks to be a bone handle, this incredibly energized, magical sword. He raises it up and he looks at the crowd.
But they shall never succeed as long as you all are faithful to us.
And with that, he drops the sword down, cutting off the head of this victim. A gasp comes out immediately from the crowd as the soldiers drop the chains. Turning around, they begin to walk down the platform. The priests surround this dead traitor, and they sort of cast some sort of incantation on it, and this dark sort of flame energy comes around him, and suddenly what is left of the victim bursts into flames. The flames go out, there's a wind, and all that is left is ash that sort of falls into a pile and blows out with the wind, as if nothing had ever happened there. Aethersha takes his sword, puts it back into the hilt, closes his cloak, and begins to follow the soldiers as the 4 priests begin to follow him as well. Now, seeing this, Rebuna now knows what he needs to do. Somehow, he needs to get to that sword. So slowly, quietly, he begins to follow the soldiers and the priestesses. A mammoth. I don't really see how we're going to use that. All right, well, we'll say this. Eventually, the group walks back to the castle with the keep inside of the walls here. And as they walk close to the castle, the the 4 priests walk ahead of the soldiers at this point, and they come to this great stone door with steel beams across it and different sort of runes that are carved into it. And right in front of the door is a pedestal with this orb resting on it. And immediately the priestesses go over and they lay their hands, 4 of them, onto this, and they say some sort of incantation, and this sort of burst of light comes out of the orb, and this you hear as the door sort of swings open. The soldiers then walk through the door, as does the priestess, and finally Aethersha walks behind them, the doors closing behind them. Rebuna sticks to the shadows as he slowly makes his way over there. Places his hand on the orb. Now the question is, when he places his hand on the orb, does anything happen? Let's ask a yes/no question of our oracle here. Does anything happen? And there we have a 3, a 4. So yes, something does happen indeed. He feels this brief sense of energy coming through his hand. The question is now, has Rebuna, in his studies as a sage, has he ever read anything about this kind of magic? About magic that opens doors? Let's ask the oracle another question. Has he done this? Has he read about this before? Yes, the answer is yes. We got another 4. So he has indeed read about this before. He has read about the incantations that are required for such magical opening of doors. Now the question is he able himself to open this door? And I'm going to set this on a difficulty class of difficult, because he's in a city of his enemies, and he doesn't know, he doesn't understand the magic here like he does in his own town. So we'll set this as a difficulty of difficult. So with a difficulty, we need to have 4 of a kind. Let's go ahead and draw our cards. There's an odd, yes. An odd, oh, we are doing really well. And no, that's an even. We got to throw that away. We have another draw. Yes, 4 odds, 4 of a kind. So this is success. He is able actually to remember the incantations that he's read about. He's a little bit, bumbles on his lips a little bit, but he is able now to recite the incantation, and suddenly the door itself opens up, and he's able now to slide into the inner courtyard where the keep is. He sees, as he does this, far away, the soldiers going over to the soldiers' quarters. He sees the priestess as well as Aethersha going into the temple area next to the main keep. And he decides to follow them into the temple area. He's going to try to sneak in. The question is he able to do that? Once again, he's a ranger, so we'll set this at moderate. There is an odd. No, we need to throw this away. There is an odd. We need 1 more. Even. Uh-oh, 1 more. Even. No. So as he is walking over and tries to sneak through the door leading into the temple, he's slowly walking in, and he hears the dripping noise. No, that's not a dripping noise, that's a pop, but he says, of something wet, water, some kind of liquid falling from the ceiling. And he's walking in very carefully, very quietly. He can see in front of him the 4 priestesses, the priests around an altar. It's very dark in here, and as he slowly walks in, suddenly his foot goes into a deep hole. There's something of a water puddle there, where there's a stone that is missing. It's full of water, and his foot immediately goes deep down into the water puddle, and he makes this bloosh noise, and immediately the 4 priestesses turn around and see him. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" they scream out. And immediately, Rebuna doesn't know what to say. So he pulls out his bow and arrow and begins to attack. Let's go ahead now and roll for initiative. Here is the initiative for our our 3 priestesses. We will set them on a level of, let's see, we'll put them on normal, so they get a +2. So their initiative is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 initiative, and we will go ahead and go for our own character. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So we are going to have an initiative of 7. So we will begin. Immediately, Rebuna pulls out an arrow and runs behind one of the pillars, pulls the arrow out and fires off onto one of the priestesses. Is he going to hit the priestess? Let's see. He's going to roll for a 4, 5, 6, 7 plus his +2 for a 9. Is he going to hit the priest? The priest has a defense of 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the priest is able to dive out of the way as the arrow comes. Immediately now, the priests begin to charge, and all 4 of them at the same time are going to be casting a spell. As they come forward, their hands are glowing with this sort of reddish glow, and they stop about 30 feet away from him and cast a spell. So they're all going to just cast one spell. As the energy comes together, it combines one bolt and flies directly at our hero, at Rebuna. So they're going to be attacking for a 3, 5, 6, 7, a 9. Rebuna's going to try to dive out of the way for a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So no, he is immediately hit by this, and he takes a total of 3 plus their level 5 points of damage, dropping him down to 50. He flies back, and immediately this energy comes over him. He feels absolutely bewildered by this, confused. You go back to initiative. It is his turn. He is going to turn around and try to run out of the temple. And as he does this, the priests are going to scream out, "We have an intruder! We have an intruder!" Alerting the soldiers. Now the question is, the soldiers are going to come running out of the side house. Is Rebuna able now to run off to the side without being seen? I'm going to say this is extremely difficult. He's going to need a 4 of a kind here. 6, that is a miss. A 5, that is still an odd. Yes, that is an odd. And no, this is his last chance. Yes, so he is actually able to run around the side of the temple and take some cover as the soldiers run into the temple. And as this happens, he looks up to the window of the keep, and he sees Aethersha looking down at him. Not at him, but looking down at the scene going on below as the soldiers run into the temple, and his head goes back into the window, and Rebuna knows now exactly what he needs to do. He goes around to the side of the keep and pushes through the door now and comes into the keep, and the keep is entirely quiet at this point. There is a stairway heading up to the right, and he knows that he needs to get up to the second level if he's going to try to find this sword or try to find Aethersha. So as he begins to climb the stairs, let's see what happens. Okay, as he begins to climb up the stairs, he gets to the top of the stairs, and immediately he ends up in something of a small room. And as he walks up the stairs, suddenly poof, a wall falls down behind him in this hallway, in this corridor, and he is now suddenly trapped in this small room. And ever so slowly, you hear this like a metallic clinking noise. As he looks up in the window there above, looking down into the hallway, he sees the face of Aethersha looking down.
Did you think you could get up here so easily? I see you have fallen into our trap.
And the walls begin to slowly come together as they are beginning to entrap him, pushing ever so closer together. Immediately, Rebuna becomes panicked as he sees this going on. Is there anything that he can do here? He looks around frantically to see if there's anything that he can use to wedge this room, and it doesn't look like it. Let's ask the Oracle. Is there something in this room that he could use to wedge this? And 6, 8. That is an extreme yes. He sees, actually in the last second, he looks over and sees that there is something of a stone throne which is sitting on the next to the wall. He runs over there and grabs the throne to try and knock it over, but the throne is incredibly heavy. He needs to do a strength check. We're gonna say this is really difficult, so he's gonna need 4 of a kind in order to pull this off. Odd, yes. Odd, yes. Odd, yes. Odd, yes! So he's able to pull the throne down. The throne, eventually, the stone throne is sort of pulls off of its base, crashes down, doesn't break into pieces, but it's still in one piece. It crashes sideways, and the wall sort of clamps into place, and you hear this cranking noise as the metal sort of grinds to a halt as the wall stops in place, only about 3 feet wide, the size of the throne, and immediately our hero Rebuna looks up and he sees that Aethersha, seeing this, gets a look on his face of anger. You can see that the light from his eyes, the sparks are now flowing, and he jumps up into the window, pulls out his sword, and immediately jumps down into the room. Now the question is, who is going to begin initiative? Let's go ahead and do this right now. We're going to set Aethersha at, which level should we make him? We're going to make him strong. So he's going to be +3, and he's going to be 30 hit points. +3. Strong character. I mean, this is our big boss. This is our hero. So here is our initiative order. 7. Oh, my goodness. 9. Oh, 10. 11, 12, 15 for Aethersha. So he is most likely going to begin unless our hero can roll better. 3, 6... no, 8, 10. So he gets a 10 for Rebuna. So immediately Aethersha comes flying down. As he's jumping down, the sword in his hand, he brings the sword down as if to smite our hero Rebuna, and he attacks. Let's go ahead and go for an attack here. 3, 4, 6, not very good. So plus his 3, so 9 total. Is Rebuna able to jump out of the way? 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. So yes, he is able to jump out of the way as the sword comes down, and immediately the sword hits the stone, and there's a spark, a flying of sparks, as the sword connects. Energy, of magical energy, sort of fills this small space, and there's just like a flash of energy, and immediately now Rebuna is going to come back and attack, and he's going to pull out his own sword and strike for the hand that is holding the sword. So let's go ahead and see the cards we get here. 3, not very good. 5 plus 2, 7. So is our opponent able to avoid that? Yes, it looks like it, with a 4, 7, 10. So he also pulls his hand away just in time and pulls the sword back. Now, as he spins around, he runs and grabs our hero Rebuna by the neck, and he looks deep in his eyes flashing now, and he says,
"Now you will suffer the same fate as the other traitor."
Pulls the sword up to strike him, and as he does, he attacks for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus his 3, 10. Are we able to pull out of this? 3, 5, 8, 9, 10, 12. So yes, at the last second, Rebuna, as the sword comes down, pulls away, and the grasp around the neck, his neck, comes loose as the sword comes and smashes into the wall. This time, Rebuna is super close, and he comes with this sword. I'm going to give him an advantage of this 1 extra card on his attack, because he is so close now at this point. So he's going to come back and jab up 1 extra card. So he is getting a 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 plus his 2, which is a 13, attacking for a 13. And defending now for a 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. So no, the hit goes through immediately, jamming his sword up into the back of Aethersha. And he immediately is going to do 6 plus 2, 8 points of damage. Wow, so dropping him down to 22. An incredible strike as he screams out, as the sword sort of buries into his back. Now the question, such a powerful hit, is he going to drop the sword? Will he drop the sword? Because the sword is in the side, in his arm, where he struck with, where Rebuna struck with his own dagger, his own sword. Is he going to drop the sword of Murasi? I don't know. Let's ask the Oracle. Is it going to happen? Let's go ahead and check this out for... oh my gosh, it is an 8. So it is a strong, extreme yes as he jams the sword into the side of Aethersha. Aethersha drops the Sword of Murasi to the floor as there's a sort of explosion of energy as Rebuna pulls his own sword back. They both look down at the sword and immediately they're going to reach down and try to grab it. Now we're going to have a competing challenge here. So we're going to have each of them take 3 cards and add their bonus and see which of them has the higher to see who grabs the sword. Let's start with Aethersha. Aethersha, 2, 6, 7, 8 points plus his 3, 11. Can our hero beat 11? 2, 4. Oh, we're going to need a big one. 5, 6, 7, 8. So no, he can't. He can't beat him. Aethersha reaches down, picks up the sword, and now he's going to turn around and strike back at our hero for a, let's see, 7. Oh my goodness, this is going to be horrible. 13, 16. Oh man, this is bad. This is bad. 16. Are we able to avoid it with our hero? No way. This is 3. This is 6, 8. No. 16 to an 8. He connects. The sword flashes as it hits into Rebuna's side. Rebuna is going to... let's see here. I'm taking too many cards here. Rebuna is going to take 3 plus 3, 6 points of damage, dropping him down to 9. So Rebuna doesn't know what to do at this point. He is going to try to draw back, and he's going to try to actually jump up if he can, move up to the window. He is a ranger. He does have an ability to jump, but this is going to be hard for him. It's going to be, well, let's say it's because he took so much damage, it's going to be difficult. He's going to have to get 4 of a kind to see if he can get up there to the window. Let's see. There's an odd. There's an odd. There's an odd. He might do it. There's an odd. Oh, man. Let's keep going. There's an even. Let's see. Let's throw that away. See if we can get another odd. No. Okay. Throw that away. Good. He's able to do it. He jumps up to the window now and immediately pulls out his bow and arrow from above. He is now probably a good 15 feet up as he backs up, pulls his bow and arrow out, and lets off a shot on his bow, attacking down into this room. We've got a 3, 5, 7 plus his 2, 9. Defending now. Aethersha, 9. Oh, he is doing really well. 7. Yeah, no problem. Aethersha jumps out of the way of the arrow as he himself comes over and tries to climb up. Now, is he able to climb up? I'm going to say same thing. It's going to be difficult for him to get up there. Is he able to climb up? Let's see. That was odd, even. 1 throwaway here. Even. No, that's another throwaway. No, this is his last card. No, he isn't able to. That is not 4 of a kind. So as he begins to climb up and reach up into the window, he's pulling himself up. His sword now is back in its holster, and his fingers release at the last second. He doesn't quite have the strength in him because of that massive hit that Rebuna was able to get against him. So he falls back down onto the floor, back first, taking a total of 1 point of damage, so bringing him down to 21. And immediately, our hero now is going to leap down from the window, blade out. And I'm going to say he's going to get an advantage on his attack because he is coming down with such force. We'll give him an advantage on his damage as well if he's able to connect. So 3, 4, 8, 9 plus his 2 would be an 11. Defending Aethersha, 2, 3, 4 plus his 3, 7. So no, he is not able to avoid that. We come down and do a ton of damage. Hopefully 3, 5, 6, 7 more points of damage, dropping this guy down to, let's see, 14. All right. Immediately now, we are back in this area. Aethersha is now going to take a step back, and instead of pulling out his sword, he's instead going to focus his hand just like the priest did and shoot off a bolt of energy. So immediately his hand begins to sort of there's like this like crackling sound and the sparks coming off his hand of red energy, and just immediately something like a fireball comes right out of his hand. He's going to be attacking for a 4. 9, 12. Is Rebuna able to avoid this? 2. No, it doesn't look like it. 3. No, he is not able to. So he's going to take a total of, let's see, 3 plus 3, 6 points of damage, dropping him down to 3. Things are not looking good for our hero at this point. What is he going to do? He needs to get out of here somehow. I know. We got an idea. Yes. He's going to use an action, and then he's going to make a movement. For his action, he is going to try now to flip the chair, the throne up again with all his strength. Flip it up so that the pressure of the wall will now crush Aethersha as he's standing in this hallway. So he's going to go ahead and try to do this. I'm going to say that this is going to be difficult because he is quite hurt at this point, so we need to go ahead and see if we can get... Oh, we got to throw that one out. 4 of a kind. No. Oh, no, we need evens. No, he's not able to do it. So as he's picking it up, he's unable to do this, and he realizes he can't make it budge, so he's going to try to climb up the window again. This is going to be difficult as well. Can he get back into the window? He needs to flee out of here. Odd. Yes, we need 4 of a kind. Odd. And... No, one more. Odd. Okay, yes. So he is able to get out of the window. He flies up into the window once again, taking a position, pulling his blade out, and readying himself. As now we're going to have Aethersha also try to jump up the window one more time. And we also say this is difficult for him. That is an odd. And we need 4 of a kind for him. Yes, no problem. So he also comes flying up into the window. This time, the sword is out. Sword flying down as he comes through the window. We're going to try to parry it by Rebuna as Aethersha comes flying through the window. But we're going to go ahead and give Aethersha an attack here. And he is going to attack for a 2, 6, 9, plus his 3, 12. Can we defend it? 2, this is huge. 3, this does not look good. No, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus his 2 and a 10. So no, he just gets through Aethersha, gets his blade through, connects, slashing into the arm of Rebuna. And Rebuna is going to take how much damage? 4 plus 3, 7. Oh, knocking him down. And immediately, everything goes black. Our hero falls backwards. The last thing he sees is the flashing eyes of Aethersha looking over him, cackling with delight as he pulls out the blazing sword, and everything goes dark. Let's go ahead and pull up our last few cards. Actually, let's go back and take a different card. Rebuna opens his eyes. Or so he thinks. Everything that had been dark, chaotic, bloodied is now peaceful. He doesn't feel any pain. He doesn't feel any terror, any anxiety. And as he opens his eyes and sits up, he feels that his body is light. He's never felt anything like this before. And he begins to stand up. And he realizes that he's standing upon a stone altar that he immediately recognizes as the stone altar inside of the temple where the priests were previously standing when he came in and they began to attack him. he hears this chanting noise, this humming noise. And he looks and he sees in the four corners of the temple the priests carrying on an incantation. And as he begins to walk, he looks back and notices that there's something left on the altar. And immediately he recognizes the boots, the clothing. It is his own body, severely bruised, beaten, and bloodied, lying there on the altar. He looks down at his hands, and it's almost as if there is an effervescence to them. He can see through them as if they are a mirage. And immediately he begins to panic, realizing that he is no longer in his body, but he has some sort of disembodied spirit. And with that, he begins to float up into the top of the temple, towards the ceiling. The four priests begin to make their way to the center of the altar. Now he sees something terrible as each of them pulls open their cloak, each of them holding a dagger, incantations getting louder and louder, and all four of them at the same time lower their daggers into his body. He sees his body shake as a sort of pulse of energy goes through his spirit. He doesn't know what to do. He's still floating, as he begins now to float out of the temple, going through the ceiling of the temple, the roof of the temple. And now he looks down and he sees the courtyard of the town, the city of Epiglutt. And there he sees a horrific view, an army of skeleton warriors with shields and spears preparing to march out of the city and to face down the city of Grigiat. And leading the charge, decked out in horrific bone armor, is Aethersha, the leader of the town, the sword blazing in his hand as he rides on a pony or a horse, a war horse of bone, flesh dripping off of the war horse. Drums begin as the army begins to walk, to make their way out of the gate, heading towards the oncoming army coming from the city of Grigiat. Rebuna floats higher and higher into the sky, seeing all of this play out almost helplessly. And as he looks over towards his hometown, he can see there, far in the distance, the line of troops making their way out. A helpless feeling coming over him because he knows that they stand no chance against the power of the sword Murasi and the undead. He sighs. And with his breath, he suddenly moves up higher into the sky. He pushes again with his hands, realizing more and more that he's able to shift his spirit around by looking, by breathing, by pushing. And suddenly, a sense of hope comes into his mind. There's still time. There's still time to warn his fellow citizens of Grigiat. And with that, he turns his gaze towards the distance, toward the oncoming army, the army of his friends, of his townsfolk. And he pushes off, flying through the sky, heading towards the army in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, whereas he failed in his quest, he may still be able to warn them and to send them off in safety. And that is where we can go ahead and end this role-playing session.